Hello everyone, I am Tacet, and today I'm going to be going over the Gems of War event objectives for the Anchor's Aweigh event, in which the Willi the Anchor is added to the game. This is quite a busy week as well, as we have the beginning of Campaign 4, we still have the Mythic from last week going on, and of course we got ourselves some Guild Wars, so quite a few things. Let's start with the Glory Troop, as usual. Comes in with a lot of green-blue. It is an epic, so you can get these for very cheap, only 200 glory each. So definitely really good to go and stack up on. It's a pretty good one. First thing you'd probably want to use on is something like a web spinner for that triple damage. As far as the troop itself, it is pretty useless. You'd be better off with greed in essentially every situation. It ends up gaining a bunch of gold, submerges itself, and then sinks to the bottom, which basically means just brings it all the way to the bottom of the team. Nice to see another thing that can end up changing its position, but overall is a pretty bad option for doing so. It does have an automatic extra turn, as it does count as a goblin, or goblin rogue specifically. However, I don't really foresee this thing being used with goblins nor with rogues, so not really going to get much usage, because if you're going green-blue, you're likely just going to be going truffle, and if you want to go rogue, you'd likely be using the spider, and he wouldn't really fit into that team. He does have one interesting thing, though. Even though all these are useless, he does have a new type of trait that's probably going to be coming in quite a bit more often, but we'll see. It ends up gaining a life for each ally with a banding trait. So this is a new type of trait, banding. So basically whenever you use them together, they will end up having a additional effect. We can kind of see this a little bit by using it with itself, since there's not really any other way to currently do so. But if we basically use a bunch of them onto your team, you can see that we have a starting HP of 116. He also has Water Link, so he does gain some off of that. But basically we'll end up getting 2 HP for every single one of our allies. So it ends up just doing that. Overall, exceedingly weak. Obviously, even if this was something like 5 or even 10, it probably wouldn't even be used. Not really going to get any kind of usage. It's just so ridiculously small. Obviously, especially this late in the game, but even earlier in the game, that's to build around that, just such a small bonus to really bother with, to a point that you're basically never going to. So be interesting to see exactly what these next banding traits do, but for the most part, it does seem like they are pretty much going to be useless and not really going to be getting much usage at all. So pretty good to just ignore them like any of these standard like +2 traits that are all in a bunch of these troops. Anyways, aside from that, a couple things I kind of already mentioned, but we do have the start of the Leonin Crown, the 4th campaign for Gems of War. We'll go over the rewards a little bit during this video. We got a Guild Wars this week. Make sure to go set all your defend teams. That starts on tomorrow, but your defend teams gets locked in per day, so make sure to get them in before tomorrow. Otherwise, your Tuesday one will already be locked in. Aside from that, we also have the new Mythic still available for the rest of today, tomorrow, Wednesday, and Thursday. At Friday Reset, it will no longer be available as the only Mythic in the Glory Gem Guild or VIP chest drop table. So if you're still looking to get the Mythic that came in last Friday, you still have a couple days left. So any keys that you're getting through your guild on these next couple days and you still want to try for it, definitely worth considering if you want to try getting the new Mythic. Anyways, as far as other things in the drop table, of course, we got ourselves the event key drop table related to Black Hawk this week. This is pretty skippable. For once, every single thing that you see here is indeed obtainable. So every single thing you see underneath the Black Hawk category can be obtained. For the most part, I'd probably skip. There are a few okay things here and there that you might use on occasion, like Bonnie Rose earlier in the game, Captain Skullbeard. Kraken's kind of okay. Megavore has a 4x armor tier and an instant kill thing. Very situational though. Skyla is probably the overall most useful if there was like any one specific thing you really wanted to get. Mostly because the Perpetual Bone Storm it basically has off its final trait gets it used in some situations. It's not used as much for its ability, but more so for its final, since it's the most consistent Skull Storm in the entire game. But overall, most of the 2 Mythics are kind of average and not really ones you'd necessarily want to go out of your way for, though getting one of them if you don't already have them could be okay. But aside from that, neither are really must-haves. Though I would say Megavore is a little bit better than the Sacroax just because there's so many different mana accumulators that kind of already does what he does, particularly Forest Troll, but even just in general, just mana generators tend to be a little bit better than what he can do due to his slower startup, but once he gets going, he's kind of okay. Overall, pretty much worth skipping unless there's a really specific drop that you want to go for. Otherwise, good week to save on your event keys and wait for a different week. Anyways, aside from that, of course, we got 2 different guild events. One is Guild Wars. We'll be doing this every single night at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, going going through, just make sure to set all your defend teams. Make sure to go and get your little sentinel things upgraded to help out your guild and yourself, and go from there. And make sure to use a pure color team every single day, and make sure all your defends are completely unique. They do not need to be pure color or defends, but they do need to all be completely different troops across all of these 6 team slots, all 24 of them. Anyways, as far as the other one, this is a pretty straightforward event. Unfortunately, we do only have skull bonus, so only skulls will do additional, not your spell damage. However, you can end up utilizing this with the multiple different skull creation troops that are within it. We also have a couple things like Bronze Lock Pistol, which is going to be pretty good. There's a lot of gold gains. This has burning, so you could use this with a triple damage burning hero class, or use it with any of them that have Hunter's Mark and just do it that way. You end up gaining a lot of Gem Destroy and getting a lot of value from that, and just kind of hoping that you'll get Skull Cascades. It does have an Empower, so you can kind of speed that up with the event. So overall, not the worst event, not the best. It's kind of average, maybe slightly above average. But you're basically going to want to go for skulls as your main win condition when going through. As far as the battles that you want to do, it is pretty much just rarity order, or literally just rarity order. The one exception is, even though it is rarity order, it is beneficial to keep doing the same room over and over again for the same rarity. I believe this is applicable to Legend and Epics this week. So for example, if you happen to get more Bonnie Roses than you do Captain Skullbeards, you want to go for the one that is getting more. Obviously with 2 and 2, it's kind of hard to tell which one's going to have more. But basically, whichever one's appearing more often is the one that you're going to want to go for. So a little bit of luck based in that regard, in that you could just happen to get more than one or not happen to get more than one. But basically, whenever you see more of a specific one, it will give slightly more points. So basically, just do rarity order. And if you happen to see a bunch of a specific rarity popping up that happens to have more than the other one of the rarity, try doing those instead of the other one, basically. But overall, if you just stick to rarity order, you will be perfectly fine for the event, as that's pretty much what it's going to come down to ultimately anyways, regardless of what battles you end up getting due to RNG. Anyways, as far as some other things that we got going on throughout the week, Tuesday we have the faction of, gosh, I keep forgetting this place's name because it has such an absurdly weird name. The Eldrazhor faction, we got that going on. It's a green-purple restriction. We got that for Tuesday. Wednesday, we're going to be getting a tentacle pet for Blackhawk bonus. For Thursday, for whatever reason, we have a Thief hero class. It is a Blackhawk week, which means we should be getting Corsair hero class. I'm not sure exactly why we're getting Thief, but it is what's happening. And this Friday, we're going to be getting Invasions with a new weapon. So that's everything that we got going on. So as far as the Soulforge, we do have ourselves one thing that's kind of worth crafting. Overall, it's probably worth just skipping on the mythics for Soulforge this time around. Or, you know, just everything, because generally you don't want to go for legends either. But Vashtagan could be somewhat okay. Vashtagan, you probably saw me using a little bit last week. It's a very situational troop. However, it is beneficial for 2 things. Blue restriction and brown restriction. This is mostly because of its synergy with something like a Iron Gut, where you can synergize it with both things. So blue Tower of Doom, brown Tower of Doom, sometimes factions, and even occasionally you could run it for PvP, though not the greatest of options for PvP, but it's definitely a winnable strategy. But basically, the main premise of this guy is that he ends up boost ratioing off of life. You use Iron Gut to go devour a bunch of stuff. You use his final curse, where you keep taking a bunch of browns to not only curse, which is a little bit situational, like only gaining curse off a brown, but when you're using something like Mountain Crusher and trying to feed an Iron Gut, you get a lot of browns to the point where you're pretty much getting as much as you need anyways. So basically, you synergize with this, like something like Mountain Crusher, Iron Gut, Vashtagan, one other option, and you can end up running this for something like pure brown, pure blue if you change up the weapon, and stuff like that. And you basically just go get your Iron Gut Devours. You then end up eventually killing out your Iron Gut with Vashtagan. And something like Delves, keep in mind you can't do this, you can only do this for the very last battle, but for something like Tower of Doom or Guild Wars, you can get away with this, since your team does replenish a course after every single one of the battles. Overall, not the greatest mythic out there, however, it does have some ever so occasional uses. But for the most part, it's probably just a skipping week and just wait till something better. But if there was something, that's the one thing that is most worth getting, unless you specifically need something just for a kingdom upgrade. Speaking of kingdom upgrades, almost all the weapons finally cycled once. These were brought in, gosh, almost a year ago. I can't remember the patch at this point when that was. But yeah, we almost got all the weapons. I think we're only missing 3 now, as far as for the first time that they've ever cycled around. and then we'll be able to have all the weapons again. But yeah, make sure to get that if you haven't already. Other than that, most of the weapons here that are available this week are pretty bad, pretty much just worth skipping. Nothing's particularly worth going out of your way for. If you were to get something, maybe just get the 2 epics, just so they're cheap weapons that you can have for kingdom upgrading purposes. But aside from that, they're all pretty useless as far as Blackhawk craftable weapons. I guess maybe getting the rogue one, just because of the synergy that it can end up having with rogues, given that we have like that spider team now. But overall, that's probably about as far as you're going to go as far as viable options. So I guess maybe if you want to craft something, I guess get the captain's cutlass. But otherwise, it's pretty much another skippable location as far as areas within the game. Before we go over teams, very briefly, I do just want to go over the campaign. Of course, we'll be doing all the tasks tonight, as we do every single night, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, as we do every Monday during the campaigns. But basically, as far as what we have for rewards, the main free rewards, other than the stats, are, of course, the 3 deed books. This time around, we have blue. So we have 3 deed books on the top side and 3 deed books on the bottom side. We also have, pretty noteworthy, I forget if we actually had this the previous time, but we actually have 2 Imperials on the paid side, right over there. I don't think we had any other location here. Aside from that, we have a pretty useless tier weapon, as is per usual with these things. We have another legend here, which actually seems a little bit more useful, and is probably going to be used to craft a Doom Troop at some point, but with the other one. But gives a bunch of stats to your first ally, and then there's 7% chance they'll end up gaining extra turn per blue in the board. Kind of like that yellow one, except it's for all stats instead of just life, and it's only for your first slot instead of all allies. And it has that similar grant a random stats effect to a random ally when an ally casts a spell kind of thing going with it. Overall, not sure exactly how usable it'll end up being. You'd have to have a pretty heavy blue spam team to really be able to utilize this, obviously. And I'm not currently aware of any that will go too far with it. I guess maybe you might be able to get away with it with something like a Truffle or Beatrix. But aside from that, I'm not sure what else you'd really be able to get value off of there. Maybe, I guess, with the doubling of the blue off that one rogue or something like that. Actually, I'm not sure if it actually worked with Truffle or Beatrix or not. Well, with Beatrix you definitely would because of cleanse and everything. But I don't know. But overall, there's not really anything too meta, I don't think, that will end up being able to get it out. It just depends. We'll have to mess with it then. But anyways, as far as the mythic Deo, as far as this thing, it's kind of like a Vespera, except the main difference is ends up eliminating, basically, both of them do the same premise in that you get to target one, and then it chooses 2 others randomly. The main difference is instead of creating gems, it ends up destroying them, which is technically a bit worse. But it might still give you a good cascade. And it does have a better overall effect in that it gets to eliminate a bunch of a skill. So basically you get to just randomly eliminate a bunch of skills and hopefully end up getting an extra turn. And even if you don't, you still get at least guaranteed mana. Compared to Vespera, where you could actually technically gain no mana at all. At least this will guarantee, even though your extra turn chance is lower with this, it'll guarantee that you're at least getting some amount of mana back. So I guess that's a little bit better. Though you can't end up basing it off your own team since it's based on the enemy as far as what it does on. Overall, just kind of weird. It does have a better summon, though. I believe this thing actually has 50% reduction when it comes into the game, so that's not too bad. Summon is definitely way superior, but overall, I don't know, it seems a little clunky, and it doesn't seem like it's going to be that useful. It's probably, we've had some really good mythics this year. It seems like it's going to be the worst mythic that we've got so far this year, from what I can currently tell. Unless they're going to rebalance it before it ends up getting added to the game. But overall, as it currently stands, it does seem a little underwhelming. Its summon could be okay, though. It seems like a okay infinite tank. But, I don't know, it just doesn't seem worth using in most situations. But that is the mythic that will be coming in through this season pass. Anyways, let's go and go over to teams and wrap things up. So, as far as teams, here are all the teams for everything throughout the week. First off, this is the thing I wanted to show with the bond. But anyways, as far as our first team, this is what I'll likely be using for most of the Ward Lore events. Bronze Ock Pistol, Megavore, Scurvy Sea Dog into Skyla. Main premise here being that we're using this with Horzir, so we can end up using the conversion to blue. This not only gives us a gold, but also gives us a bunch of blue. We could end up using this with Pistol, and then kind of just going crazy from there. Going with Megavore, going with Skyla, going from there. Oh, I just realized, you know what would actually work really good with that one blue troop? I wonder if it would actually work pretty good with the Rogue Spider, because that ends up creating blue-purple. I'm not sure why I was thinking Truffle and Beatrix were. I was like, wait, they don't create blue. But, yeah, it might actually work with the Rogue Spider, that one blue troop that we're getting on the second to last week. But anyways, as far as this team, Megavore ends up tearing all armor, which is going to be pretty beneficial with the skulls that you're going to be doing, basically just making it sure that you can end up killing all of them in one shot. It also has that extra instant kill, which also is going to help with one-shotting stuff, obviously. And the really big useful thing for this week, if you haven't already gotten a copy of her, it's pretty advised to go get one, due to the condition of this week being Skull to win. She ends up creating a Bone Storm whenever doing a 4x or 5x match. This is going to be extremely beneficial, regardless of what your team is. So highly advise picking her up, as it will help out quite a bit. Basically, the premise with that is we instantly go and get our extra turn off of this. It gives us gold for the bronze-like pistol for the boost ratio. We get all of our destroys. We already got the Bone Storm going. We already got all of our blues, and we kind of just go crazy from there. You don't even technically even need Megavore, just kind of there for a little bit of extra speed. The main premise is obviously bronze-like pistol and the Scurvy Sea Dog into Skyla. As far as what the main team is, the Megavore is just there to help speed it up a little bit. So that's the main premise that we're going to be running for that. As far as the next one, for the cheaper build, we kind of showed it earlier, but it's ideally you would want to try to put a Skyla somewhere in here. We can kind of do with this. This was the blue trip I was talking about earlier, the deckhand. He can loot blues pretty decently. Has Scurvy Sea Dog for the rush blue, obviously, and the Captain Skullbeard is mostly for mana accumulation. However, he does technically create skulls. However, those skulls are generally going to get eaten up by all of his explosions, basically making him purely a mana accumulator. As far as the event, it is a green-purple restriction for the faction, so you can simply run a Rowan meta. Obviously, you can't end up running it with a Mirage Queen, but you can end up just doing into a Scale Shield, kind of just go crazy from there with the Leprechauns and, you know, pretty much be good to go. As far as pure faction, this is actually a weird pure faction in that you actually deliberately want to let a troop die. So this Deep Huntsman has a 100% chance to summon a Tome Spider on death. So basically what you want to end up having for your final team is Tome Spider by having this thing die, Deep Huntsman, Deep Elven Rogue, and then the Martin Velini. Generally, you'd want to have it dead either by the end of the first battle or do it right at the beginning of the second battle. However, you could try letting it live a little bit. However, you actually get quite a bit of speed from the Tome Spider, surprisingly. It's one of your biggest damage sources, since the only other damage source that you really have is Matron otherwise, and you keep using the Deep Elven guard thingy in order to eliminate a bunch of attacks so they can't really harm you. So you basically use the Tome Spider in first slot for your damage output, the Deep Huntsman for your mana accumulation, and as a backup Tome Spider in case it happens to die. This to eliminate their attacks so they can't damage you, and you can also get random stats effects that might help you if it's like Death Mark or something. And this is just the backup kill chance, while also webbing and cursing the opposing team. And that's pretty much the premise for running pure faction for this place. And aside from that, for whatever reason, we do have Thief class this Thursday instead of Corsair. Not sure why that is. However, you'd basically just use Dawnbringer into a bunch of Goblin Rockets. Should be pretty much good to go. You have plenty of Goblins available from Zacian. Specifically, it would be any of the goblins from Zacian, so that's pretty much almost the entirety of the kingdom as far as what you have to choose from. This was one of the quicker methods if you could just get the one shot out of it for those earlier range, and if you're just doing the free battles, it's pretty much the entire range of it, where you could just one shot, two shots with a single shot weapon, with Dawnbringer just being one of the better options. But anyways, guys, that'll wrap it up for now. Thank you all so much for watching. If you have any other questions, feel free to leave it in the comment section below. Of course, all the teams that we've shown in this video will also be in the description below, as always. And, of course, we'll be streaming tonight, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, kind of messing with Guild Wars stuff, as we will be throughout the entirety of the week. And, of course, we'll be going over all the campaign tasks and probably just looking at the rewards a little bit more as well, kind of seeing what's worth it, what's not, and all that. But anyways, guys, thanks for watching. We'll catch you guys later, and have a wonderful week. And best of luck if you're going to still be trying for that mythic. Goodbye, everyone.